we should be good. We can start.
Okay, all right. Welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today. I just thought that we should put together a meeting, just 'cause it's been quite a while since we've met. So before we start, we're gonna do a roll call, but Joe, is it all right if I ask for everyone to say their name and their affiliation in the city, or you could just say that you're a committed citizen here, but
yep, that's not a problem.
Can we do that? Okay,
yep,
so I'll start off. So my name is Terry Ying, and I serve as the chairwoman for the Equal Rights Commission. My family and I are small business owners here.
Also, Marcus Greeno, commissioner, affiliation, descendant of the original inhabitants, Menominee.
John Shelton. I am commissioner. I'm the vice chair. I am a faculty member at UW Green Bay in the Department of Democracy and Justice Studies, and also president of the faculty and staff union there.
I'm not a commissioner. I'm Joe Falls. I'm staff in the city.
I'm Stephanie Guzman. I was just appointed commissioner. Thank you. I work for Boys and Girls Club as a graduation specialist, and I also work for the Green Bay Public School System. With them, I work as a student advocate right now. So we're trying to figure out some ways to kind of get a lot of the movement of education. I'm going to be visiting UWGB soon, so I'm from there as well. So I'm excited about being a part of this as well. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cristina Ortiz. I also work at the university, but I'm also here as a committed citizen.
I'm Jim Hutchison. I'm Alder of District 2, so I'm the Alder representation here. Glad to be here.
All right. And then I believe we're missing, is Isaac still part of this?
No.
No? Okay. So we're missing Saeed, and he might come a little bit later, and then also we are missing Elizabeth. Right?
Yep, and Michael's, they're all excused.
Okay. I just wanted to make a note of that. All right. So moving forward, Joe, for the approval of the agenda, are we going to do that, or are we skipping over that?
No, you can do that.
Okay. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. All opposed, please say nay. Sounds like everyone has approved that. Moving forward, approval of the minutes. And Joe, I forget the date for that.
When was it? I think we could say approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. Approval of the minutes for the last meeting. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings from our last meeting that occurred on was it August or July? I'm trying to look it up right now.
June 13th, right?
June 13th.
Could have been, yeah.
June 13th. That's so long ago.
Yeah.
Horrible. Yeah, I don't see it on here.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Okay, that motion stands approved. Moving forward to regular business. So it says consideration with possible action on the City of Green Bay Human Resources Report regarding information about activities and accomplishments with respect to diversity and equal opportunity in city employment. That one, Joe, I'm going to let you.
Yeah, sure. So we do have the report in your packet, and it was included. And I won't go over it completely in detail, but I can go over kind of the high points. So the ordinance that creates the Equal Rights Commission, we need to, Human Resources needs to provide a report each year on what we're trying to accomplish with the D&I effort and with our equal employment opportunity. So from one of our goals is to, I guess, introduce awareness around DE&I for our employees. So one thing I think we've done is we have a lot of resources, but I think we just need to do a better job making sure our employees are aware of those resources. So that's what's in the first one here. We also did provide DE&I training for our supervisors. I believe that was in the spring of this year. And then also we have created an assessment tool for supervisors, but it's not completed yet. It's kind of in a draft form. So I'd like to update that and have our teams look that over. And then just this week, we did have a civility and positivity in the workplace training. So I think that also is included. So that was a good and well-received training that occurred. And then the next aspect is our recruitment and hiring of employees. So I think we have done, a much better job on social media of really getting our city job postings out there and trying to use different tactics and strategies to find new employees. Also, we've really put an emphasis on the job training for employees. So there's a lot of certifications that are required of positions, and we're trying to promote more of we'll train you and you can get the certification within 1 year. So I think that's been working out pretty well. And then we attend job fairs, whether it's the Chamber, UWGB, or NWTC. That usually works out pretty well. I think an opportunity that we have, I think, would be really good, especially if you have a DE&I position, is to meet with community groups in the community, talk about our recruitment process, talk about like our job postings, positions that are available, and kind of get feedback from the community groups of, what do they know about our recruitment process, maybe what are the barriers of them, applying for positions, and maybe what type of positions they're looking for. I think that'd be really helpful. So, and then another opportunity, it's a little bit with recruitment, but also retention, is establishing our ERGs. We've had the policy for employee resource groups for some time. We did meet with employees from Schreiber, a few years back, and they talked about employee resource groups and what they can provide for Schreiber and for any company. And they talked about it took several years to get one up and running, and once you get one going, I think kind of a snowball, it starts going. So that's where we're at this point. I think there's been some interest, but we're just hoping to really get that one group started and go from there. And then we just have some additional information where, we did submit the Municipal Equality Index to the Human Rights Campaign this summer. So I don't remember when that score comes out. I think it's in the fall. It should be, or maybe it's early next year. So I'm optimistic that we improved our score, and I think we set the goal of having 100 points within, I think, 3 to 4 years, I think it was. So I think we're on track to maybe meet that. And then we have the D&I strategic plan that's in the packet. So when we get the new D&I position, that will be updated, and it kind of depends on who's in the role. They have a different set of eyes on it, and I think they can kind of put their own touch on where they want to see that going for the city. And then also our DE&I coordinator was a member of our public relations team, which I think assists citywide communication. And I think it's nice to have that position, part of the public relations team, to bring that viewpoint when we're sending out mass communications or just talking about strategy and how to communicate with the community members. And then also our position was a member of a lot of external groups, like the New North had a D&I task force. I think the Chamber did too, that the position would attend from time to time. Our insurance company, CIVMIC, had a DE&I council. The YWCA had some other task force too. So I'm not sure if they're task force, but I think had some meetings with the position. So, and then our D&I coordinator did go to a neighborhood association to provide training on biases, which I thought was really cool. I believe it was a virtual training, but I think that's more of the opportunities that this type of position could provide for the community. And then I included in here kind of the City of Green Bay population for the data in the community, but then also the city employee data. And obviously I think it doesn't take long to look at that. We would really like to improve and have more of a reflection of our community based on our employee population. And then lastly, I just had in here with the DE&I position. It is going, it's part of the budget. It'll be included, and the Common Council asked that we revisit it during budget time to see if we can keep the position or not. And obviously I'm a very strong advocate that we need the position because we have a lot of DE&I work for our employees. So we renamed it the Workplace Culture Specialist because I think that's broad enough to encompass DE&I efforts, but also just kind of the workplace culture in general. So this type of position would really help, I think, meeting with our employees and meeting with supervisors to get a feel for the culture, kind of department by department, and also help develop policies or SOGs that can create an inclusive environment, and then also work closely with human resources to set some metrics and goals for the city departments, whether it's recruitment goals or even just goals with how we interact with each other. So I think that'd be helpful. And then also help establish employee resource groups and then be a resource for them. But really, I think all in all, I think that position, to me, we've had it for 1 year, and I think they set up a pretty good foundation where we're at, but it just feels like we need someone to really carry the torch and really be that resource for employees. And then obviously the position too would be staff for the Equal Rights Commission to help with research and any other direction that you would give that position. So that's where we're at right now. I feel like the biggest hurdle we have is the capacity for our HR staff. We really need to have that position to help us with these efforts, because we need someone who's a subject matter expert in it, but then also be a resource for employees. So that's part of the report on what we've done and where we're hoping to go. I think there's some work to be done, for sure.
When do you hope to have the position filled?
So the position is going to it's going to be part of the budget process where the city council oversees all the organizational charts for every department, and they're going to determine whether or not it's included in our 2023 budget. So we'll know in November 10th.
So there is a possibility that it doesn't happen, or?
It's possible, yes. I hope it doesn't happen, but yes, it's possible that they could cut the position out of the HR budget.
So, in terms of like who you're potentially looking for to hire, or like ideal candidate, is there any like talk of like either being bilingual or potentially coming from Hispanic or Latino? Because I'm just seeing the City of Green Bay's population data according to the last census. It says 15.2% of our population is Hispanic or Latino, and that's the second highest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like it'd be good to have somebody that is in that role. I see we currently have about 16 employees who are Hispanic, 862 are Caucasian, obviously because it's 76.7% of the population of Green Bay. But I think that might be an ideal candidate just because of the demographics we have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have any requirement in the job description at this point to be bilingual or speak multiple languages.
Okay.
But yeah, I think at this point, I mean, we posted it in the summer, and we did have some quality candidates that we wanted to recruit. So,
cool.
I mean, it's open to whoever has the experience and knowledge to be in the position. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of need, I think, for Hispanic, interpretation or translation for our community members, and we've talked about that at council meetings before, whether it's like for elections or even any type of city service. So that would be a big help if someone's bilingual, and especially in Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, well, I wouldn't be a part of the hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
Just
yeah.
Please make note of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
But I think we got to get this position funded first, right?
Well, I mean, use it as a.
I'm going to speak way more candidly than Joe is, but we have a city council where there are forces that don't want to fund this position.
Oh, okay.
And I'm hoping maybe you can tell us more about that, Jim?
Yeah, there's a block. We just need one alder to change their vote. And I think I know who it is. I'm going to talk with them. But I've been livid 2 or 3 times during these meetings because no one's saying they don't want the position because we don't want to help. They literally, that's I think they're thinking. What they say is we want to keep the budget money loose, so let's hold this position open. And that doesn't hold water. So they're publicly saying something that isn't accurate in my view. So already the tactic is there to kind of fog up the issue. And I mean, you just have to look at the numbers. I've gone through this twice, and I've tried to make it clear that, if you look at these numbers and they're okay with you, what's going on? Because there's 16 Latinx, and there should be 122. I mean, theoretically. So the number should be much higher than what it is. And there's an absolute show of concern by almost half the alders. So it's iffy, but I think we'll hold the position is funded. The position is there. We just have to continue it. They're going to have to pull the position, and I think it's kind of interesting. The sophisticated business people want it. They want the position. So
when is this going to be decided?
In a couple of weeks during the budget.
Yeah, so I can talk to that. So on November 3rd, what we have is called the Joint Finance Personnel Meeting. That's where we do the committee work on the budget. So that would be starts at 3 p.m. And that's where they really kind of go into detail of every department and their budget. And then on November 10th, that's when the budget is finalized.
And I think the way this has gone is it may fly through the first meeting and they're waiting for the last meeting to, so I don't actually, it's hard for me to say, I don't trust some of the alders anymore. I'm brand new and I hate to say it, but what I've gone through is I've seen decisions and things done contrary to what was said publicly in an open meeting, and it just drives me nuts. So we have to be prepared to act quickly, and I think it's a matter of just securing the votes. I think there can be discussions. I can talk one-on-one with alders, right, about issues that are coming up without breaking the law.
Yeah, you have to be considered the walking quorum to a certain extent, but yeah, it depends on.
Yeah, so it would be one-on-one, and I know who the for sure votes are, and I know the one iffy vote. So if we get that vote, we should be okay. The problem is you gotta hold it.
So it sounds like the decision's really gonna kind of be made on November 10th?
The last one.
So would it be helpful to have commissioners there?
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful because it's that important.
Yep.
And even if they pull it on before the 10th, we can always put it back on, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct.
So the 10th is the actual date. It's the last kick at the cat, and that's when it rules. So
how many commissioners could be there to talk about it?
I could be there.
I mean, even if you're there just sitting there, I would have like something on your chest that says you're on the Equal Rights Commission.
Can you get us sashes?
Sashes.
We'll see what we can do. Yeah, I can try your ads.
Yeah, and I think it helps to have people line up and talk, especially if it's hitting the same, and if it can be coordinated where, you know, you share different things and, you know, overlap, and I think it's that important. I think it really is.
I mean, it might be good to remind city council members of the constituents they're serving, because I don't think of any neighborhood area of Green Bay that doesn't have, you know, a diversity of groups.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
and the vote isn't like, it's close votes,
Yeah.
except for those who don't have anyone running against them, but everywhere you went, when there was two people, it was close vote. So one alder won by 9 votes. So it's a good time to remind them that there's a lot of not represented people. I mean, we need to do something. The city has to do something and keep it going. And this, I think the plan is right on. I think the commission has to kind of stay strong, because I wouldn't, if we lose the position, then the commission may be attacked. I mean, literally, that's the way I feel about it. So we have to be, I guess, a little bit thoughtful, but I guess we gotta say, it's time. It's time to bring it up and come forward. It really is.
So I have 2 quick questions. I don't know if you have the answer for Alderman Hutchison, but one, earlier you said that there's funding for this position, but that they wanted to keep it open in case something else, they needed to use it for something else. So have they spoken about what that something else is?
No. And another alder during the discussion,
equity.
right, he brought up the fact, he asked the person who knows the money and says, is there an issue? And they said no. So there is no issue of not having any funds. And I just went through a budget discussion this week with the mayor and people, and Joe and other people, and we're not in a mode of having to really react and cut a lot of things. We're not in that mode at all.
Okay. So that's good to know. And then secondly, my second question is, what's the sustainability of this position? If it were to pass this round, how many terms would this position be working?
So the position would be for just cause, like any other position. Typically, if someone's in the position, it's very, very difficult to cut it. It's when the position's vacant, that's usually when they are able to do that. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that they won't cut it, but I think it's very unlikely if it's filled that they'll cut it.
So they use the fact that Raya left to go after it.
Right.
Right.
I saw language where if someone leaves, we don't have to go back to common council with it. Is that right? Is that still there?
No, I think the way our policies read with filling positions, I think it's a little vague on how it's written. I think a new alder reading it could read and say, hey, if it's in the budget, why would we come back to get it filled? Because it's already been approved. And some municipalities operate that way, and I've brought that up in the past that I'd be in favor of doing that. But I think kind of past practice and the way that the policy's been interpreted is any vacancy we bring back to the council to re-examine and review if we need the position. And from an HR perspective, I think almost every position we have is needed. It's very difficult to find a position that's not needed with the services we have. But we always want to review a position based on the job description, the responsibilities that they're doing, to make sure it's up to date, and the reporting structure, stuff like that. But I think when bringing it back to the council to see if it's needed or not, especially a position that's just been approved, a couple of years ago, it seems weird to me that a couple of years go by and that we would not refill a position. But yeah, we are supposed to bring it back to the common council.
Okay.
And I just wanted to note that Commissioner Saeed is here.
Yeah, thank you.
If you wanted to introduce yourself just real quick.
Yeah, my name is Saeed Hassan. I am founder and executive director of Community Services Agency, nonprofit that works with refugees and immigrants. I've been working with commissioners for the period of, I can't remember.
A year, right?
A year or
So
so.
long you don't even remember when you started.
Correct. That was a little bit long time ago, through Zoom and now graciously meeting each other.
Thank you. All right, so back to this agenda item. So Joey, are you looking for a motion for this report?
Yeah, if there are any more questions, I think a motion received and placed on file would be fine.
Okay, can I get a motion to place this on file?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. All right, so that stands approved.
Can I just say one other thing? So, I mean, we can remind everybody about the city council meeting, right, without, so is that something maybe as chair you would want to do like a week before so that everybody remembers to come?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, absolutely.
It's November 10th at 3 o'clock?
November 10th will be at 6, I believe.
Okay.
Yep, Thursday.
And I can coordinate and make sure we send it out.
The
Yeah,
rally's at 3 o'clock.
Just your rally.
You're part of it.
That's Thursday?
Yeah, it's so November 3rd is a Thursday for the joint finance personnel, then it's next Thursday, and I believe that's because of the election.
Oh,
Yeah, I think the election's that Tuesday, the 8th.
okay.
Oh, boy. I don't know what kind of mental state I'm going to be in on November 10th.
Hopefully joyful.
Yes.
Let's hope for the best.
Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Yes.
The one before, is that in the afternoon?
Yeah, the one on the 3rd is at 3 p.m.
Okay, the week before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that one, yeah, it's gonna be the 10th, is gonna be the real one. If it get pulled, I'm gonna make a motion now, put it back on.
Yeah, and November 3rd, I'll be there and you'll be there, and I'll be explaining the whole human resources budget anyway, so.
I don't know if we should strategize on that, because it's so important. I don't know if we make the push that day, or let it just fall, or what.
I mean, from my perspective, it's in my HR budget, so obviously I think I need it, the city needs it. So I mean, from my perspective, I'm gonna ask that it stays in, and I would ask the committee that it stays in, so. However, the votes come out, if it's 2-2, 3-1, or whatever. It's gonna be the 4 Finance Personnel Committee members. That's who will be voting on the November 3rd.
Well, it should pass then.
So then,
Because I'm on that committee, and there's hopefully 2 others, so that.
yeah, so then for the DE&I position and any other item, all the common council members are encouraged to be there on the 3rd. They'll give input so we could see what the input is from other council members on that item.
Okay, and then the 10th, is that a council meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so it all comes back to council again.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they'll all be sitting there.
Yes.
Okay.
And voting.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to come on the 10th then.
Joe, so then would it be okay for you after that 3rd, after November 3rd, if you sent us
Yep.
a little reminder?
Yeah.
Just
I
so
can
that
do
we
that.
know kind of what's going on.
Yep. And I think if there's any, community members, business owners that have similar positions or are supportive of this position, invite them to come as well, because I think it's that important. I think the
that's
business
true.
owners know it's important to their business, it should be important to the city as well.
Would it be prudent to let commissioners discuss this with alders, one-on-one?
Yeah, there's not an issue with that.
Okay. Okay. It can't hurt, I don't think.
Well, Alderman Hutchison, why don't you think about that and then give me a call and we can talk about it?
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, I'll let you know if there may be some opportunities out there for discussions with alders.
Sounds good. All right. Any other questions?
So my question is for the invitation for business owners, do you think that it's best that they go for the November 10th?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And we're talking all kinds of small business, all kinds of business owners?
Anybody.
Perfect.
Anybody who has a business that can show either that they have someone working in that job where they help within the company and then recruitment or whatever it
Perfect.
is.
Yep.
Or it would help too to have people, if you know people who don't have anyone working with the city and they would like to, and they're from different cultures, and if they could say, and this is true, it should be true, if they knew that someone was working on their behalf within the city, that would really help. Because right now, what we're trying to do is take these numbers and make the number of city employees closer to what the city is made of. And I don't know how you do that without having a staff member, that's their goal. I just don't get it. So if anyone could get up and say that, or is working with the city, if they'd be willing to stand up and say, I wish we had this, because it's hard to refute. It's just absolutely hard to refute that. So, because right now it's, the only thing really pushing is vagueness. No one's coming out and really saying why they're pushing back on it. I really don't know. I don't know why there's this pushback. It would really be nice if people would just be blunt.
And I guess maybe I can jump into, going off of that, is I believe that the Human Resources Department, all of our hiring managers, we're legally compliant with the law in the sense that we're not discriminating against people or applicants or employees, but we need to be intentional about being inclusive and being equitable, and that's where we need this position to bring those actual metrics and goals and really have someone focused on it. That's what we're missing right now from the city.
It's like it falls between the cracks,
Mhm.
I think this is something that I'm going to definitely share with Casa Alba, also with Voces de la Frontera, because if we're being honest, I'm part of that 16.4%, and I promise you, I have had cousins who went through police academy, who wanted to work for the city, as police officers, and it was the smallest thing that, for some reason or another, it didn't, you know?
See, that's a good point, because I just met with the police department yesterday, and I got the spiel of what they're made up of. They're good individuals, they're well-intentioned, they are male, white, male, white, male, white, male, white, male, white, okay? So that's their cultural background.
Yeah.
And they describe the testing that you have to go through to get into the department. It's incredible. And it seemed like if someone from outside that culture was coming in, I would be scared to death to go through that thing. So there really needs to be an advocate. I would hope that the city would have someone, if someone's coming from a different culture and gonna apply for it, specifically the police department, someone should be by their side and tell them what the deal is. Because it's incredible. You have to fill out a written thing, the first thing. And if that written thing is a little off, there's like, and really? Because you might get kicked out because of that written thing. Then there's a next step, and you actually have to take a polygraph at some point. So the best advice would be just tell the truth. If you stole something and got arrested for it, tell it. And you can still get hired as long as you're honest up front. People don't know that. And if I was from a different culture, and I wouldn't want to be admitting that stuff up front.
Because you never know, man.
You never know. How's it going to be used? And the way they say to us is if they're up front at the beginning, then it eases the way at the end. Okay. So, I mean, these applicants need to know that, you know. So I would be really big on, I don't know if it's this person's job or making sure, you know, I'd almost volunteer. If someone's gonna go take this test, a young person, to get into the police department, I would volunteer to help them. That's how important it is, because what you just said makes total sense to me, because when I'm listening to this, I go, oh my God, it probably is really easy to get kicked out of the process if you don't know what's going on.
But yeah, definitely, I do think it's in the major interest of any minority here to want to have this position filled. Because again, if for some reason it's being missed, because I know there's tons of things you guys do at HR, this person can specifically bring names to you. I mean, that's their whole job, right? Yeah. So I think that I will definitely reach out to especially those places that I know are Hispanic resource centers. Mm-hmm. They're literally all about helping advocates. So I mean, they don't even know this is happening. That there is a position that could help fill some of these numbers to make them more equitable and more equal. They don't know that there's somebody who could be hired to help that. Yeah. So if they show up, maybe they, you know, the city council can see, holy smokes, like, you know.
Yeah, it's a hard argument because there's actually 8 positions in the police department that you can't fill. You can't fill because there's not applicants, and they're not, you know, they're just not getting applicants. So wouldn't it be great if some other cultured young adults come in and they are able to get in this system and work well? And I think the opportunities there from the structure of the police department, I think the people who are in higher positions are all okay with it. It just has to get through that entry-level testing stuff.
So I did want to just mention real quick, I think, I don't know, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the police chief did want a separate position, like a DEI position for the police department, right? Separate from this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talks about it. I'm not sure how close he is. I know he's evaluating the whole, you know, PD. He's only been here for about a year, but you know, I think that's, you know, if you can have more DEI positions, I think that's helpful for an organization our size. But yeah, PD that has and Chief Davis would be much better to speak on this than I would, but I think we're all well aware that DE&I issues with police relations with the community, I think that's probably a completely different ballpark than what I'm talking about with even just recruitment. But yeah, so the need for it, I believe, would be there.
I think it's actually, in a way, super important, because if we do it, they will follow. Sometimes they just need to model. Like if the city is so interested in having this position filled because it's important, maybe other police departments and other people will consider having the same roles in their, I think, model. I mean, I'm going back to like even just teaching education and working with kids. If I model this behavior, sometimes it just catches on. So I don't know. Hopefully they can see if for some reason City Council does pass this, it is important, and maybe they will consider it in the future. But if they scrap it, then it really does mean like, oh, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, you know.
It would be a huge mistake if they.
Yeah.
But people don't know. See, this is the first I hear of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know. Outside the city staff.
Yeah, so I think, to be strategic, I think we focused in on this position for the city.
Yep.
That works with the city. And then that'll come along the way.
Yep.
In case they say, oh, okay, you know what, forget the city position, we're going to just give the funding to the police department for their position.
Yep.
And then they only focus on police department stuff. Yep. Right? Does that make sense, Lance?
Yeah. Yes.
It might be worth it to let a couple of reporters that we know about this.
Yes.
If you guys think that that'll be helpful.
Joshua from WBAY and Natalie Osbert.
Yep.
They've both been covering this kind of stuff.
Yep. Would that be helpful, Joe Hutchison?
I'm the last guy to ask on the PR stuff.
Yeah.
We want it to be helpful, right?
Yep.
We want to be helpful. We don't want it to we don't want it to have adverse effect. So if you think that's helpful, then yes.
It might be helpful. Let's get a read the week
The
before.
3rd, yeah.
To see how that goes. Because if there's just a lot of pushback on the 3rd, then I say, we have nothing to lose then.
At least do it in plain sight if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Let's get the truth out on the table. Doesn't have anything to do with the budget.
And I'm not gonna lie, I like that idea of after that meeting you guys are having, because if for some reason, we have to get them on record. I want to have, like, if there's an article out there saying, yo, they're trying to do this, and they end up scrapping this, I want it on record that these aldermen were the ones that voted against. So that when I go canvass, you best believe I'm gonna bring this up. You know what I mean? But right now, since you're right, they're being so vague about it. There's no record.
What district do you live in?
I live right across the street from Edison Middle School.
You do?
Yeah.
Which, to the east?
That's over there, east by Aurora Hospital.
You're in my district.
Awesome.
I would gladly help you run if you wanted to take over.
Oh yeah, we'll talk.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes a good point, because it is a point that could be used in elections, and they're savvy. One thing about a lot of the alders who have been on for years, so they're savvy. So they would understand that.
All right, any further discussion on that topic? Then I would ask that we move forward to agenda item F, informational update on the discussion of equal housing opportunities in the city of Green Bay. So for those that are new, or since we haven't met for a while, this past year we put together 3 public hearings to meet with local leaders and different community organizations that are working within housing. And we wanted to learn a little bit more about what was happening locally with the housing crisis and all. So what we did was, what John did actually, was he put together all the findings that we heard about and learned. He put that together in a report. He put some history behind it, and then he also put together some recommendations that we could possibly share with the city council to move forward, either to low-hanging fruit that can be done within a day or so or a week, all the way up to things that could be like ordinances or policy changes. So John, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, it's really a draft report at this point. We just and Tara helped me, but we just kind of collected everything that we heard, and a set of recommendations kind of based on what we heard, and some things that people had suggested, and a few other things that we kind of found out there that kind of stemmed from what we heard about. And so there's a draft report. Tara and I at this point are the only people who have looked at it except for some city staff. We decided to run it through them first and make sure that we're not getting anything wrong. And then the plan after that would be to then bring it to the rest of the commission, get your feedback, and then hopefully be able to publicize it. I think we're tentatively thinking maybe January, like around MLK Day. And then, at some point bring it to the city council potentially, but the idea would be to then hopefully work with the mayor's office to publicize it and really kind of like galvanize a conversation around housing and some ways to make it more equitable. So I think once everybody's sort of on board with it, and everybody's had a chance to kind of give their feedback and integrate that, at that point, we'd really be looking for everybody else on the commission to kind of serve as evangelists for the report, So that's kind of where it is.
Yep, so currently we're circulating it we met with the mayor, and then we passed it on to Joe and some of the, I believe, executive team members, can I call them that, team of staff?
Yeah, that works.
And then next would be to go back to the organizations that we spoke to, or the leaders that we spoke to get their input. And then after that, would it be commission before community?
Well, we have to talk about that, I guess, but we wanted to make sure that all the people who spoke were comfortable with how we're quoting them before. We're concerned about the order of everything because we don't want that stuff to be public before it's ready to be public,
Yeah, and again, thank you so much for that. But where we were before when we had these conversations, and I was part of the group that was consulted as a leading organization that works with refugees and immigrants. It's more pronounced today than it was when we spoke.
Yeah.
A case in point, last weekend, Sunday, 12 families showed up in our office talking about and raise on their rentals without penalties, and they are told to pay things that they don't even know. And if they don't do that, they are told to voluntarily leave that building, vacate as soon as possible. So now, these landlords are now very powerful enough that they don't even care and don't want to listen to these individuals. Just because they don't speak English, just because they don't look like them. And the total individuals that came, the 12 families, the number of individuals impacted by this is 49, and I'm still counting. So we had a meeting today with a group of other nonprofit organizations chaired by United Way, and we had Casa Alpa also that brought up. Amanda was just there. So we spoke with Ahmad Rivera today, and another conversation is emanating again from that. So it's more pronounced, it's more urgent, it's more emergency. So I don't think, this is more, it's something that needs actually urgent, emergency attention rather than waiting alongside the line.
Yeah, and it was, I know many of you were at some of the hearings at some point. I mean, like, what we heard honestly was the just abject power imbalance that exists in this community between landlords and tenants especially. And so, this draft is not going to pull any punches about that. And I think Tara and I both agree, and I think the mayor's office agrees, like, this is, and I don't mean this derisively about anything that's happened in the past, but like, this is not going to be like some of the other reports about housing that basically conclude with, let's just give more tax breaks to developers, right? Because that's not working, right? And obviously this is a problem that goes beyond Green Bay. This is a national problem, but this is our community, and this is what we can do something about. So it's a report that's going to be, I think, pretty honest about what's going on in some of these situations. So. So we're going to need everybody's feedback to make it as good as it can be, I think. But we've got a good start.
That's good. One thing that came up during the discussions with the alders is the notion, there is a question being asked by people who are presenting, I think, about the grading system. What do you trust more, a judge that was elected or a committee, this committee, with regard to deciding on issues? Okay, it was out of the blue. And I was stunned at how well the answers came back. We're not here to discuss that. That was perfect. Because it's like, what are you asking? I didn't even understand what the question was. And the question, though, is asking, does this commission have the wherewithal to do a judgment? Because apparently there's teeth in this commission, right?
To a certain extent, yeah.
Okay, so apparently, if someone's literally doing something illegal and it's blatant, things can be done by this commission, and this alder wanted to make the point it would be better to go to court than to hear. So I viewed it as a direct assault on this commission. That's what I don't know, Joe, if you felt the same way.
What, I don't remember that conversation. When was that?
It was when they were presenting, the alders asked, okay, so it all started, how does the city get graded for being, you know,
Oh, the human rights committee.
Yeah.
EMI?
Oh, okay.
How do they get, we want people to come here and tell us how they get graded. So they came.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so then all of a sudden this question came out of the blue. It's like, what? And they answered it great by not answering it. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? What affront that was? And I didn't want to, after the third question to the third person, I was almost going to say, you know, make a motion that stick to the point. That isn't the point, what we're talking about here. But I'm so young at it, I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, I
Yeah.
think
Second
there was a lot of misunderstanding of what was even going on in that conversation.
Right.
We don't make up any grades. That is the human rights
Right.
campaign that does that, which is an outside organization. And so, if I remember that alder correctly, because we were at that meeting,
Right.
you know, it was this sort of weird idea that, like, you know, there's this outside organization making these, and it wasn't us. It was the human rights campaign.
It was the human rights for the grading,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But I think his questions had nothing to do with the grading.
Right.
His questions had to do with someone who was being castigated for being racist in his business. Who you want to judge that? This commission or a judge? Well, what the heck?
Which we already can't do. I mean, we
Exactly.
can't hear complaints. We can issue recommendations, but but just a couple of things. I mean, so first of all, you know, the issues that your folks are facing in Comza, I mean, like, there are some things we can actually do to give tenants resources. Like, the city can do that. Like, the city, I'm not saying Comza does this, but we learned that the city can actually contract with a nonprofit to have them step in and do housing advocacy for tenants. Like, we don't have that here right now. So that's something that we could do, like, in that situation, to have someone who is effectively being paid by the city to then go in and advocate for tenants, which isn't going to completely level the playing field, but gives tenants some more resources.
The city can also establish development percentages, you know, in order to develop these houses for free market, you have to build these subsidized housing, a lot, you know, controlled rent housing. I mean, so there's certain recommendations that we can make that the city then can adopt, and that will alleviate a problem that, as you say, is just getting worse by day, you know, really bad.
And if particular city council members won't go along with it, well, we can elect people that pledge to enact an ordinance like that.
Absolutely.
And Bloomington, Minnesota has one.
Correct. And then, yeah, I talking about the traditional way of buying houses versus the, I think there's also one thing that prevents these individuals from owning. For example, there's cultural barriers, and that we have talked with when the city brought those groups from outside to come and source that land that was given by JBS. And I was there, and some of the recommendations that we gave along the line with the research that was done by the students from the University of Madison said that there should be a source where certain groups should be understood, and this is happening in Minnesota. It's happening now. It's not like based on interest, but based on more especially those individual community members who does not feel comfortable buying house through interest rather than profit based. So they already understand from that perspective that if tomorrow there is that kind of a market, that city maybe is controlled, someone else is controlling, and I think they can easily purchase, they can easily sell like hundreds and hundreds of units at one time, because people are eager to buy, but there's just a prevention due to certain cultural barrier that's preventing them from owning.
Yeah.
Minnesota is doing very great on that because there is individual folks who are already understanding where the market in that respect. And I think Seattle, Washington, and other places that I've had is happening right now. So, like my family, to an example, my wife will be comfortable purchasing a house in Minnesota than in Green Bay. Because there's not such market existing in Green Bay at this stage.
Do you think this, the owner's increasing rent is based on the reassessment or on inflation? Because you probably have addresses of these buildings, right? And you can compare it to what the average reassessment was. And if it's at 37.5% or less, they shouldn't necessarily be making any changes to an agreement based on the fact they were reassessed higher, because that's average. So they probably won't get taxes that are more based on that property. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm not sure about that. But if that happens, they could have communicated with those tenants and say to them about, and should have given them an information about whether they can be able to accept that. But nothing that happened. None of these 12 families speak English. None of them can even read the letter that was written to them. And they were told to sign something that they don't know. So to be honest with you, it was more like sign your life that you don't even know what's going to happen.
It's just not good business.
And then what happened is people just started paying the original amount of rent that they used to pay. What followed was 5-day notice to vacate the building if they don't pay that amount. And people were like crying left, right, and center, saying where's this money coming from? So again, emailing them to intervene, no answers. They just don't want to associate with us because why not? Just powerful company that doesn't want to talk to people like us. So
is it one company or two or?
Right now, the only question is one, and we have a lot of other individuals who are coming to the office.
This is common though.
Oh, yeah.
This is why we have inflation, because corporations and companies are jacking up prices because they know they can.
Yeah, this is a super important conversation. I mean, I myself moved to that side of town because the landlord that I had on this side, I was right down the street from the police department. The apartment upstairs became vacant, and I asked her, because at the time my sister was looking for a place. I was like, oh, okay, how much is the apartment upstairs? I mean, we were paying $630 at the time. And she's like, oh, $900 now. And I'm like, same bedrooms, everything? Yep. So from $630 to $900. So then I got my notice that starting my new lease, it was going to turn to $900, one bedroom. no updates. I didn't even have a bell for when I was cooking. Just terrible conditions. It's just she wanted to charge more. And eventually, since I was not okay, I wanted to have like talk to her. I was like, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, then I would love that you change the carpet.
Yeah.
So when I came in here, it was not changed. I started telling her a couple observations that I had in writing of things that were set in place that I wanted changed. And she sent me a 5-day eviction notice because my girlfriend had, you know, the abortion rights.
Mhm.
We had a poster there that we were pro-choice.
Yeah.
And she was not okay with that. So she's like, you're damaging my windows, so 5-day eviction notice. Just because I had that art on my wall, on my window. She sent me that. So it was like, take it down or else. So I was like, I don't want to deal with this. So I ended up getting another, and we moved to another place. My landlord's Hispanic. And I'm 100% more happy giving her my money because she gets it. You know what I mean? And I don't know, but to me that was even emotional just getting there. I just moved not recently, and it was super emotional because the harassment I would get from this lady after, you know, I started questioning a little bit about why are you raising the rent. She was just kind of, I had a flat tire. She straight up said to me, if you don't have this tire changed by tomorrow, I'm going to tow it in my own parking lot. So, you know, it's just little harassments like that. That even if, because she's like, I'm going by the law. Yeah, but you're harassing people. You don't talk like that to everyone else, do you? But, you know, it's just one of those things that it's happening to our community. And how the microaggression, you know, how do you even address that? Yeah. Yeah. And I speak perfect English. You know, so it's just like, you know, imagine people that don't.
We're all agreed then, we're gonna make some noise about this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How loud can we be?
Oh, as loud as we want.
Loud as we
Let's
want.
get you. I've been to a Somali wedding. I know how loud we can be. You know?
And then we can give you some other tea. Okay, so I think that is, you know, right now I think we are getting together to understand more on how, from the Hispanic perspective, with Amanda next week.
Perfect.
Hopefully with Amanda Rivera. And that's something I can circle back with you guys to see how that development's going. Because there's a lot of things that she has been mentioning today on that, you know, group with us. So there's a lot of other things that I also wanted to learn from the We All Rise African American Resource Center. A friend of mine, Robin, just wanted to hear about that and how things are going in the world so that we can be able to see how things are, so that we can be able to put together kind of a...
So, take good notes. Tara and I did meet with the staff of We All Rise, because we couldn't get them to one of our hearings. And it ended up being, I think, a better conversation anyway, because it wasn't sort of out in, you know, public hearing. People were very candid with us. So we got to be cautious about how we like quote people from that conversation, because there's a lot of deep skepticism in the Black community here, especially as it connects to over-policing and how that's connected to, right? So, but we've got some of that in there. But yeah, take good notes at all these meetings, because, you know, we can, like, let's bring in more, you know?
Yeah.
Cool. So where we at on this? I got a couple good notes on where we gotta go with this for the report in terms of feedback, and also more clear language on our own. So I guess that's good. It's good to hear. I guess once you hear back from the organizations and if they give their blessing, then yeah, you run with it.
And did we ever decide if we circulate a draft in the commission, is that subject to open records?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, because that's what, I want to just make sure that we're not out, you know, in a place where people can access this until it's ready to be there.
I think that it would be good to frame this report in the urgency of the situation, you know, because, I mean, people are getting evicted or not finding housing, and you know, for the city that creates that's another issue, you know. So I think that you know, the way we can frame this as a, you know, the urgency of the moment and the necessity to act, you know, in a way that
Yeah.
stops something from becoming bigger.
Yeah.
So that everybody sees that this is something that the city needs.
Yes.
And I don't know if we need external expertise on what you mentioned right now about inflation versus the choice of pumping up the price, and whether that is something that we can be able to, with a free market system kind of a thing, how can we approach that? And I don't want to mention the other Pandora box about how, employment thing is also about individuals being sacked because they were told they can do that because it's a free will, state. But here, are we walking into that same area where we might be confronted with market jargons rather than, understanding this,
Yeah.
the concept?
I wish I could share the report right now because there's a whole historical piece about how market forces actually don't give us freedom.
Okay.
That, actually, what we get freedom from, ensuring that everybody's needs are met. And that we have that tradition in the United States. And
I think when you say market, then I'm going to allude to the capitalist market. We've got freedom from the other side of the world.
yeah. So the point is, we got to make the kind of argument
Okay.
that's gonna allow us to do things differently.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
We can't get bogged down into because that's all we've been hearing, right? In this city is the way to provide housing is to incentivize developers so that we're subsidizing their profits in the hope that there'll be some extra
Kind.
housing. It's magical thinking, and it's wrong. And that's the reason that tenants, whether they're Somali or Latinx or anybody else, is being squeezed because we're not actually creating a system that's giving tenants and people who are renting and buying houses at the lower end of the market any kind of power. And so it leads to these petty cruelties about you put up a sign, you're damaging my windows, right? I mean, that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Or we lose our iconic places in
But
the city.
I think that also framing it in a because is in many cases this affects everybody that is in a low income scale of
Yes.
that they
Yes.
can't. I mean, the situation is becoming 900, going from an apartment that's 630 to 900. How much money you have to bring home to be able to pay that rent? So I mean, it's not that. I mean, the microaggressions were targeted to you because of
My
the
beliefs,
ethnicity,
sure, yeah.
but that right there affects anybody who's in the low income
Yep,
scale.
that's
So
true.
I mean, I think that for some of the aldermen that are hard sell for certain things, we just have to be convincing that this is an issue that affects the community as a whole, right? That this is we're leaving people behind or in the streets because we're not addressing this issue that is becoming more and more, acute, in Green Bay. The prices are just, I don't even know that if I could afford to buy a house the way my house has been assessed now, I mean, is that the prices are going off the roof. And so, I mean, that's affecting a lot of people. And so I think that the city has to make sure that this is an issue that they prioritize the solutions to this.
And the other downward spiral that this might lead to if it continues to happen is hopelessness. And if you call a shelter right now,
Yeah.
they will tell you call us after 3 months. There would be one more. So it's just the craziness to the literal word of to that sense. So how can you add to that, trickling down kind of a downward spiral of homelessness? So we have been seeing individuals who are also trying to take decisions to move out of this area and move somewhere else where they can be able to be subsidized. So A, we are losing individuals. B, we might be adding to the already bubbling boat of homelessness. And all these things are, parallel kind of problems that are going one time. So that report is going to be very, very helpful. But again, again, having this conversation and speaking, heading on to where the problems are, and finger pointing them, and maybe having some conversations with them, is going to be an immediate solution.
And I think the other thing too is, like, there are things we can do as this commission, even though we can't formally, like, sanction people as other equal rights commissions can do. We can publicize things. We can, I was just having a conversation with another nonprofit I won't mention, but, one of the conversations we were having was about somebody who was being targeted by a landlord. There's no reason why any of us as equal rights commissioners couldn't go and have a conversation with that landlord, right? Now, there's nothing like legally we can do, but we can basically say, look, the Equal Rights Commission, we're watching this. People are paying attention to this, right? And that's something we're doing around the margins. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, as we're thinking about this report and where we're going to go with it, like, let's also be thinking about, like, how we're going to make this issue public and how we're going to, like, use this, the platform that we have to go out and try and, like, at least show some landlords that we're holding them accountable for things that they're doing. And I think we can do that.
I think that visibility is going to change a great deal of what's happening right now. Because no one is just talking,
Right.
But you also said something really important. I mean, Green Bay is a city that relies heavily on manufacturing, and those are jobs that pay. I mean, again, going back to a $900 rent or something like that as an average one-bedroom apartment. I mean,
those workers are moving to Minnesota.
Yep.
Well, exactly. If you frame the problem as a city problem, as a way of retaining a labor force that helps with the economy of the city, I mean, I think that we have to find a common solution, whether it's in developing laws that where housing with controlled rent need to be built, there are places in town that you can do that,
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of will.
Yeah, and something, as I was traveling, this is international model that I got from, I was traveling in Ethiopia and I was in Kenya. I left Kenya 20 years ago. It doubled the size. I've saw a lot of individuals who are classmates with me owning properties, and I asked them, how do you do that? And they told me, you just purchase a land. So the city got the city or individuals got a land, a land to, like a piece of land to sell to those individuals, and those individuals can buy, and then they build using their own developer. They bring their own developer, and the city is going to register them, and they just start paying their lives and everything else. So that was kind of a cheaper way for them building that houses when they're able to do that. And people could raise about $80,000, $9,000, and they can just be able to get 3 bedroom, and then years later they can add another 2 bedroom, and that's going to be enough for a family size of 9. So something like that is a model that I've seen happening somewhere else. I don't know if the city is able to say, hey, this is a land that we have that people can be able to purchase. This meter square or whatever is amount of that, and then it's free market for those individuals who are willing to develop their own buildings and their own units. And that respect, then people who can afford and running away from the traditional sense can be able to utilize that. And it's very much successful in Kenya and in Ethiopia. I've seen it's very successful.
There's a version of that in the U.S. called a community land trust.
When I first moved to Green Bay, I think it was actually in this building, probably, I came to meetings about how to become a homeowner.
Okay.
Workshops like that. I don't know if the city still organizes that, or your rights as a tenant. They can be offered in different languages, so that people are aware of what to ask, who to consult before they sign something, and that they could be done in different languages, and that the city can offer as a way of, information that people could have, how to be a homeowner. And I remember there was you could purchase certain houses with 0 down payment down, and they explain the, you know, the basics of,
Like rent to own kind of a thing.
yeah, rent to own,
Yeah.
or programs like that, you know, that people might not be aware of, you know, or how much you know, I mean, I remember that we did like calculations. This is how much I make, and this is how much I should save for this, for that, you know. You know, it was a workshop. And so I think that was, because I mean, I've never purchased a house before, so I learned a lot.
Yeah, but it just fell back on what he mentioned, like, the report is going to be a call to action for anyone, from government, from local, anybody who sees and feels this problem. But you're right, going back to the basics and just being able to teach these things again to some of our members, for some of it's the first time they hear it. They won't even know, they don't even know where to go, other than just
that you have
NeighborWorks.
rights.
I think some people, because I'm sorry, but for my community, we do work a lot with word of mouth.
Yeah.
If you get a house and you're Hispanic, you're gonna go tell me, and then I'm gonna go tell my, and it just, everyone goes to NeighborWorks, everyone
Yeah.
goes to, and so if the city, for some reason, would help facilitate some of these workshops again, I feel like at least knowledge is power,
Yeah.
right? Getting this information, and not only that, but it helps our community members and our tenants to start making note of the things that, hey, this is not right with my landlord. And why do I say this? Because there was a saying in Spanish that I live by that literally is, él llega hasta donde tú dejas, which is they'll charge you, and if you pay and you don't ask questions why, then they'll charge you again, and then they'll do the next thing. Especially like our community members that are literally don't speak English,
Yeah.
the ones that don't, that are so thankful to be in this country
Yeah.
that they won't even question.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. If my landlord says, "I'm so thankful you took me in," yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And so I think that by us teaching them these things, like, you know, that's actually not. You
fact,
you deserve better, right?
Empowering people. you
Yeah,
know,
I
with
think-
information.
yeah.
These are your rights. This is what you can. This is what a landlord can do. This is what they cannot do. This is where you can go if you think that you're being the subject of abuse or harassment. I mean, those things. A lot of members of the community have no clue. He's the owner. I must
Yeah.
pay or pack and leave, and you know. And that's not true. You have rights. So,
Yeah, and then there's our individual in the city that actually does accept complaints that we have already, you know, referred individuals to, but a part-time individual, and I think maybe confronted with thousands and thousands of complaints. Like we have been referring to a couple of clients that are very serious matter that we felt discriminated. Their deposit confiscated without, you know, any prior reason. So it's not just one thing. It's just multifaceted, and I think reports like this is going to make it naked so that we can be able to see through, and then for us who are on the ground can be able to, you know, have those meetings and be able to. And I think the more we are quiet about it, the more those predators want to feel more proud about what they are doing and continue to do whatever they want to. So I think media attention, individuals talking about this, you know, right now we are starting with having meeting with them, emailing them to discuss about how can we help you. Can we help you even to talk to your, you know, tenants about any changes to the policy. Can we help you in a language that they understand? We are here to help you. So, and the next step, if they're not listening and all those discrimination are going on, then is to look for alternatives where we can be able to, or maybe their voices can be able to be heard. So that we are in the second stage now with these 49 individuals. Right now we have been waiting for more than 2 weeks to say, I followed an email to say, I'm following up on my email. Can I have someone to talk to me? Then I think no one is even willing to talk to me. So now next week, the 49 individuals are waiting an answer from me. All of them coming to my office, unable to even do my actual work because I can't, you know, let 49 people with mostly, I think 80% of these are children.
yeah.
Then it's really a big deal.
Maybe you need somebody else from the Equal Rights Commission to also contact them and ask for a meeting.
Yeah, and I think I can forward those in the email that I sent to this group. And maybe John, if you want to head on, I think you'll be the right person because you're a board member. So I can forward that email to you and then make those.
Yeah, and I'll just say, you know, hey, like I'm the vice chair of the Equal Rights Commission. We're paying attention to this. Let's meet. Yeah, do it.
All right, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, let me know how I can support you in that as well, John.
Okay. All right.
I think, you know, it's important to note that we're not alone in this fight. I just spoke with Sarah Beckman. She's a program director at Chief Brown County, and she was telling me they just held like a summit about reading because third graders in the public schools, they're at a 27%, excuse me, average for reading rate. It's 37% for Caucasian kids, 5% for Latino, Hispanic, Mexican kids. So that's a huge disparity right there. So she was telling me one of the things they're looking at is the home conditions. Do kids have stable homes? If you don't have a stable home, it's gonna stunt your development and your growth and learning. So we have allies and partners that are, you know, willing to stand with us when we present this to the council, and they want to create an initiative for particularly reading and education, but they are in support of this because housing is such a big
Linked.
yeah, yeah.
That's good, and we're going to have to push them to embrace some bigger ideas because people aren't going to get housing by magic. You know.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion? Any concerns? Any questions about where we're going with this report?
Can't wait for it to be released.
All right, so then we don't have anything else on the agenda unless anyone else wants to say anything, but otherwise I would just ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay, motion.
You want a second?
Okay, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All not in favor?
That was the quickest aye of the night.
All right,
Everyone's in
meeting
unison.
adjourned.
Do we know when the next meeting will be?
No, not yet.
I don't know if I met you.
I've met you because you used to work with Mohammed.
You saw me once? Oh, yeah. Oh, my.